CBS.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Bob Dole virtually conceded the Republican presidential nomination to George Bush today. Jesse Jackson, in effect, said, wait a minute, to the Democrats' mass movement toward virtually conceding their nomination to Michael Dukakis. First, CBS News correspondent Phil Jones with the Dole story.
Senator Dole all but threw in the towel today as he conceded to a Washington business audience that nobody really seemed to care about his campaign message and that he can read the numbers.
But I think it's probably pretty much a foregone conclusion what's happening on the Republican side. We need to keep a Republican in the White House. That's where I'm coming from. And if it can't be me, it'll be George Bush.
Dole had indicated after his disastrous losses to Vice President Bush on Super Tuesday that he would stay at least through the April 5th Wisconsin primary. But recent polls show Dole trailing in some instances by over 40 points. And today, he wouldn't even promise to stay in through Wisconsin.
Well, I may tell you that later this week, or probably next week.
Dole wasn't the only Republican candidate conceding the inevitable.
We have figured for some time now that George Bush is going to be the runaway winner of the Republican nomination. He had the party structure, and he had the hearts of the Republican voters.
But the vice president, with about a 5-to-1 delegate lead over Dole, was still running hard today.
I have to just keep going right down to the wire without trying to figure out what's happening in someone else's campaign.
I think it's an opportunity now to in the weeks ahead to pull the Republican Party together. We have the opportunity to go into a fall with a united and strong Republican Party.
Dole's campaign is closing offices in all upcoming primary states with the exception of Wisconsin and Connecticut. His staff has gone from a peak of 300 to between 15 and 20. Money has become a problem, with only about $350,000 cash on hand. For Dole, these are tough days. He spent part of this afternoon sunning on a balcony porch at the Capitol, consulting with Senate and campaign aides, pondering a graceful exit from a disappointing presidential campaign. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol.
Now about Jesse Jackson trying to stop a stampede he believes Michael Dukakis is unfairly and prematurely trying to start. As CBS News chief political correspondent Bruce Morton points out, Jackson's best argument is that he has more votes than anyone else.
What does Jesse Jackson want?
Jackson, these last pre-Michigan days, sounds like a candidate who thinks he's hot.
I keep on winning these elections. I want the nomination.
Polls here say it's a race between Jackson and Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis in the popular vote, though it's harder to predict how the delegates will come out. Dukakis sounds like a man crawling towards front-runner status.
You've just got to keep relentlessly moving along and campaigning hard and pushing hard and doing your best to do well.
Jackson, after a visit to Detroit's Wayne County Jail this morning, listed some reasons why he's confident.
I have the most popular votes since I'm gaining the will of the people. Of 32 campaigns, I've come at number 1 and number 2 in 24 campaigns.
Indeed, some Jackson staffers are already worrying that if their man is the people's choice, the unelected superdelegates, congressmen, members of the National Committee, may try to deny him the nomination.
Because Jesse Jackson has gotten such overwhelming support. No delegate, or to put it another way, no superdelegate is going to be arrogant enough to ignore that.
But those are front-runner worries. At a suburban Detroit rally for Richard Gephardt today, the high school band played Yesterday. Not a bad tune for the man who won Iowa but has faded since. The crowd was mostly bussed-in school kids, and staffers in the back of the room were explaining to reporters how far behind they were, how little time was left. Gephardt himself tried to be upbeat.
We will have a miracle in Michigan tomorrow. We will bring Michigan home for change, and we will make America over again.
Miracles, of course, are what you ask for when you know that nothing else can help. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Taylor, Michigan.
President Reagan suddenly threw himself back into the middle of the Weapons for Iran criminal case today, raising questions about potentially damaging presidential interference in the judicial process. Before Oliver North and 3 other key defendants have even gone on trial, Mr. Reagan declared they are not guilty and will be found innocent of charges they defrauded the United States government and stole millions of taxpayer dollars. But 10 months before he loses his pardon power, Mr. Reagan refused to say whether he will use it finally in this case. Bill Plant has our report.
President Reagan, who called Oliver North a national hero just after North was fired from the National Security Council, has not changed his mind. Just one day after North, former NSC Director John Poindexter and 2 associates pleaded innocent to criminal charges of conspiracy, theft, and fraud, the president weighed in publicly with his view.
I still think Ollie North is a hero. And on the other hand, in any talk about what I might do or pardons and so forth, I think with the case before the courts, that's something I can't discuss now. But I just have to believe that they're going to be found innocent because I don't think they were guilty of any law-breaking or any crime.
Outraged reaction from Democrats was almost immediate.
Such a statement about the guilt or innocence of people under criminal indictment by the chief executive is highly inappropriate.
If he believes so strongly in circumventing the process, circumventing the jury system, circumventing the public involvement, then why doesn't he go ahead and pardon Ollie North right now?
Mr. Reagan didn't stop with assertions of innocence, but went on to suggest that there are still unanswered questions in the Iran-Contra affair.
I still don't know who got that extra money or where it came from.
In fact, the Iran-Contra Committee published a detailed breakdown of the profit on the arms sales to Iran, $16.1 million. Of that, the Contras got $3.8 million, less than a quarter. The rest went back to participants in the deal. The president maintained today the deal didn't amount to much.
It was a token shipment of arms.
In fact, the U.S. shipped Iran 2004 TOW missiles and more than 200 spare parts for Hawk missile batteries. But neither the numbers nor the circumstances have ever convinced Mr. Reagan that what happened was a big deal.
You know, the whole so-called Iran scandal, I find it hard to think of scandal in connection with it.
From the beginning, the staff has tried to persuade Mr. Reagan not to talk about Iran-Contra. But the president is thoroughly convinced that he and his former subordinates got a raw deal, so sometimes he just can't resist. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Big trials come and go in New York City. Once in a while, one of them gets national attention. That's what happened with the Chambers case. There was never any doubt that Robert Chambers killed Jennifer Levin during a sexual encounter inside Central Park. The question was whether the killing was deliberate or an accident. Correspondent Richard Roth reports on the dramatic and controversial conclusion to the case of the tryst that ended in tragedy.
It ended in the courtroom 9 days after the jury began deliberations, not with a verdict, but with a bargained plea. With the jury still out, 21-year-old Robert Chambers pleaded guilty to manslaughter, an admission he intended to hurt 18-year-old Jennifer Levin the night he killed her in what his lawyer had called a tragic accident. A friend of the victim called the admission a relief.
To listen to him say it was a big shock. I'm so happy it's over.
Since the summer night killing in Central Park a year and a half ago, the case had captured the attention of a city where deadly crimes are daily occurrences. This one seemed different. The victim and the accused, both prep school educated, came from what people called good homes. Young and attractive, they partied in places where youngsters could drink late. The night Jennifer Levin died, she and her date had been at a bar. But in a videotaped confession, Robert Chambers had insisted it was an accident. In a violent reflex, a response to pain, he said, he accidentally choked the young woman during a sexual encounter.
She molested me in the park. She hit me. How did she molest you? We're talking about what? Girls cannot. Girls cannot. What are you telling me? She's raping you in the park? She's having her way with me, without my consent, with my hands behind my back, hurting me.
In pleading guilty to manslaughter, Chambers faces up to 25 years in prison, though there were indications the sentence would be smaller. Legal experts call it a serious crime with serious penalties.
Juries in New York at least will stall when listening to a story like Chambers and will not, at least not unanimously, believe accident, and that if you get yourself into that kind of predicament, you can expect to go to jail for quite some time.
As part of the agreement ending the so-called Preppy murder trial, Chambers also admitted a role in burglarizing some fashionable New York apartments, crimes allegedly committed to support a cocaine habit for which his planned defense had been that they weren't his fault, that someone else had made him break the law. Richard Roth, CBS News, New York.
The judge today asked Robert Chambers if he intended to cause, quote, serious injury to Jennifer Levin and thereby cause her death. Chambers answered, and I quote, "Looking back on everything, I have to say yes." Chambers added, again, quote, "It breaks my heart to have to say that." Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, correspondent David Dow on the tearful reunions of a troubled people, a wave of immigration nobody expected. And correspondent David Browning with proof that what goes around comes around.
You're on your way.
Kids and science can really get together in the right kind of place. So Dow has developed and funded the Touch Tech Laboratory here at Impression 5 in Lansing, Michigan.
In this particular experiment, we're going to make a solid out of two liquids.
It's a hands-on museum that puts the wonders of science at a child's fingertips.
You know, PJ.
And who knows what that could lead to.
Dow lets you do great things.
These little things are like snowflakes.
Boy, this crunch is loud. I thought I heard you say these little things were like snowflakes.
I did. See? No two look the same. Isn't nature wonderful?
All natural post-grape nut cereal, the one and only.
Talk about flakes.
When you go shopping, you have to find the right fit, style, color.
When you do, you feel great.
But when you also find the Made in the USA label, you feel even better.
It's a great feeling.
Made in the USA.
What would you get if you crossed an Oldsmobile like this with an Oldsmobile like this? You'd get an Oldsmobile that really cooks. A Cutlass Calais with a remarkable quad-4 engine.
With 2 months to go now before the Moscow summit, the U.S. and the Soviet Union still have serious disagreements about arms control, Afghanistan, and many other issues. But members of President Reagan's team who took part in this week's pre-summit talks now are selling hard on the theme that the dialogue between the superpowers is improving, each side now more willing to listen to the other's views, even on the explosive topic of human rights. As Wyatt Andrews reports, that in itself is controversial.
In Washington, the homeless now sleep in the cheerleaders' locker room in the stadium of the Washington Redskins. They are America's most visible social weakness. But is this a human rights abuse? The Soviet Union thinks so. Juveniles convicted of murder on death row. Is this a human rights abuse? The Soviets are questioning that too. Slowly, a new trend is evolving in human rights diplomacy. The U.S. is taking Soviet complaints on human rights seriously, giving them credibility. For the last 2 days, the most unusual and in-depth human rights discussion ever was held with the Soviets at the State Department. Some of the main topics: the American system of capital punishment, the Soviet system of using mental wards as jails.
In the past, we were criticizing each other much more than cooperating in this field.
Freedom for the Baltic states.
Freedom!
The new brand of diplomacy is angering those who never wanted to cooperate with the Soviets, saying human rights abuses in the two countries should not be comparable.
It's really ironic and tragic that the Reagan administration, which has identified itself with these enduring principles of God-given liberty, is now casting them aside and operating in the context of the Soviet view.
Many human rights advocates, however, say the new approach is working, that it's keeping the Russians at the table.
Not just to the table, but also to get them to listen to what we have to say, and we have evidence that as a consequence of this, some long-standing unresolved cases have been resolved.
The State Department defends these human rights discussions as progress, the most important change, that the Russians no longer claim they are immune to human rights accusations.
We have said that we are not interested in making propaganda points against anyone on this issue. We're trying to solve problems.
To critics, the new approach gives the Russians a more formal way to take shots at America's failing. But to American diplomats, it is a show of strength from a society unafraid to confront its imperfection. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the State Department.
Soviet troops patrolled the capital of Armenia today with Army helicopters circling overhead, and a dissident leader said plans for a mass protest this weekend have been canceled. Moscow this week ordered a crackdown against the Armenian protest movement, Apparently, Mikhail Gorbachev's era of glasnost was not open to the calls for annexation of a neighboring region. Over the last year, Moscow has loosened immigration rules for Soviet Armenians, and thousands of them are already seeking new lives here in America. David Dow reports.
They are the immigrants that nobody expected, a sudden stream of refugees from Soviet Armenia pouring into the United States at the rate of 1,000 a month.
My sister, 8 years I don't look. 8 years, yeah.
Most of them are destined for the Little Armenias of the Los Angeles area, a region that is already home for 250,000 Armenians who began arriving more than 70 years ago. It has become a highly visible community in recent weeks as thousands have demonstrated here in sympathy with their brethren in Soviet Armenia.
You know, this is the flag of the United States, right?
But the new wave of Armenian immigrants, of Soviet exit visas, predates the demonstrations. Some see it as a byproduct of glasnost, others as a Soviet gesture toward better U.S. relations. Either way, the new arrivals are a surprise load on public services.
They're in desperate need of English as a second language, and yet the county does not have any programs in place to provide that kind of training.
Everybody comes the rainbow. Good.
At one Glendale school, new Armenian students now arrive almost every day, 75 since last November. The district has recruited bilingual residents and given them emergency teaching credentials to cope with the influx.
It's not gradual right now, it's quick. It triggers new classrooms, it triggers the need for new teachers, and districts just do not have that kind of money.
Federal funding of refugee services has been cut back in recent years. In the Armenian community, families and friends dig into their own pockets to help out the newcomers. For the new immigrants, there's the old imperative. Find a job, any job.
We are try to work, and there will be hard work.
And for many Armenians, there is ambivalence, sadness at the exodus from the only remaining homeland, happiness for the new arrivals, and questions about how long the door will stay open for others to follow. David Dow, CBS News, Los Angeles.
On Wall Street, the market is down more than 88 points over the past 2 days as analysts said program trading triggered another sharp drop today in the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Okay, honey.
Can you tell who hasn't had their Kellogg's Bran Flakes?
Hang in there, honey.
Well, some people feel a little sluggish if they're not eating a balanced diet.
Oh boy, am I sluggish.
Kellogg's are the only bran flakes with fiber and a full day supply of iron to help balance your diet. And that's one great way to help fight that sluggish feeling. So maybe you can tell who hasn't had their Kellogg's Bran Flakes.
Great shot, honey.
And who has. Kellogg's Bran Flakes, the fiber and iron cereal.
And I don't want anyone driving my XT while I'm away. You understand?
The new Subaru XT6 has a powerful 6-cylinder engine, computerized full-time four-wheel drive, and a design which makes it hard to resist.
Somebody drove my car. Who was it?
The Subaru XT6. We built our reputation by building a better car.
The champions of Rome, their secret, natural whole grain goodness, a nourishing combination of grains found in today's Roman meal bread. Make one meal a day a Roman meal.
Hey, Halpern, all set? Everyone's waiting in the conference room. Gotcha. Presentation booklets just arrived from the printer. Super. Did you want them all stapled shut like that?
Another senseless career crisis that could have been prevented simply by using PIP.
President Reagan today called on Israel not to attack Saudi Arabia to wipe out the Saudis' new Chinese-made missiles. A White House spokesman said there was no evidence the Israelis are actually planning a preemptive strike, but the Saudis were reportedly worried that they might. The U.S. Senate unanimously called on President Reagan today to step up the pressure against Panama's military boss Manuel Noriega and get him out of there. Without being specific, the resolution called for new diplomatic, political, and economic moves. In Panama, Doug Tennell reports. on the standoff between the U.S. and Noriega.
The Pentagon has more than doubled the number of special security police units in Panama. As of today, 670 additional soldiers have been airlifted to American bases here, and U.S. commanders do not rule out the possibility of more troops being sent. But as the military prepares for any future threat, American civilians here claim they are already on the front line, and the threat is now.
This man was kicking me and hitting me just as hard as he could. He wasn't kicking me any harder because he just wasn't physically able.
Some of the 1,100 American employees who operate the Panama Canal heard several first-hand accounts last night of an anti-American campaign that has grown increasingly violent.
He was threatened with being shot, sent to Cuba, cut up in pieces and sent to Reagan.
In an interview today, Manuel Noriega voiced some of his harshest anti-American rhetoric yet and included this warning.
The United States is trying to make this another Vietnam. If so, it will be not only Panamanian blood that will be spilled, but American blood too.
U.S. officials say the almost daily demonstrations in front of the American embassy here are but the harmless side of a far more menacing campaign of harassing Americans that has escalated in direct proportion to pressure from Washington.
We're dealing with a situation that is very unstable and has a potential for getting worse, and therefore we're taking some prudent measures to see that we have adequate security.
Manuel Noriega has hung on far longer than almost anyone believed he could. The danger now is that as Washington searches for new ways to turn up the pressure on Noriega, it could be Americans here who suffer the consequences. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Panama.
Dancer and choreographer Robert Joffrey, founder of one of this nation's major ballet companies, died today in a New York hospital. Robert Joffrey, who was 57, reportedly died of a liver ailment caused by medication he took for asthma and a muscle condition. He was an Afghan immigrant son who was born in Seattle and took up dancing as a child to combat asthma. He founded his company in 1956, sending its 6 members on a national tour in a borrowed station wagon while he remained in New York working to pay expenses. Within 10 years, the Joffrey Ballet had performed throughout the Far East, the Soviet Union, and at the White House.
Those are the brakes?
I can go fast.
Yeah, but careful. When someone cares, you trust them.
Why are you doing that?
So it fits you just right.
When you feel special, that's trust.
I'll bet you're so Dad.
At Allied Van Lines, people make the difference. Each one takes pride in being the one America trusts.
You like putting things together?
I like doing this for you.
Me too.
I've written a sort of educational graffiti with Old English oil. It moisturizes to help prevent drying and cracking, brings out wood's natural beauty in the glorious manner that befits my glorious manner. Old English helps prevent drying and cracking.
Post makes the only bran flakes with zip-pack freshness to keep their high-fiber, best taste fresh longer. I zip what I should have do now.
Post natural bran flakes with zip-pack freshness.
Zippity-yay.
Where's Charlie?
So how's your new lawnmower?
Great. I've wanted a John Deere all my life. Out there first thing this morning. Done in no time.
Where is he? I've had my John Deere rider for years. Never had a bit of trouble.
Mine started this morning like the first day I got it, and it's 7 years old.
So what's keeping Charlie?
He doesn't have a John Deere, does he?
Nothing runs like a deer.
And to end the week, join us on a journey through a time warp. We're not sure if we're traveling back to the future or back to the past, but it involves what's been called the one standard against which all national crazes are measured. And it, or they, may be back. David Browning explains.
Take me, I'm a U.S. Marshal.
1958. Gunsmoke was America's favorite TV show. Ike was in the White House. Elvis was giving teenagers palpitations and their parents fits. And from Australia came another pelvic sensation that was to circle the world.
Hula hoop ist ansteckend.
The hula hoop. Kids from Berlin to Bakersfield loved it. Adults loved it.
Auch wenn noch so gewichtig tut.
Even animals got in the act with some early stupid pet tricks.
Max, the wonder hooping hula hound.
All of a sudden, the whole world went crazy. There was hijackings of hula hoop trucks. There was, just because they were very valuable, people just couldn't get them, and there was so much demand for them.
Hi there, I'm Art Linkletter with the new Art Linkletter Spin-A-Hoops.
TV host Art Linkletter brought out a competing hoop.
About 40 million of them were made in the United States. We're probably responsible for more out-of-place pelvic girdles in the United States than any living human being.
But crazes being what they are, the bottom fell out of the hoop market soon enough. Still, the Whammo company kept on making a few hula hoops, and this year hopes to sell 4 million, the best year since 1958. Whammo executives like Dan Roddick think the hoop's making a comeback because parents and kids are tired of high-tech toys.
As a father, I know the simplicity of a hula hoop is certainly appealing over something that has 14 pages of assembly instructions.
Which brings us to the extravaganza they put on today at Disneyland to celebrate 30 years of the hoop. 1,500 hoopers, count them, ladies and gentlemen, all gyrating at once for a hula hoop record. Others will be celebrating more sedately.
I don't try my hoop out anymore, but I have one at home hanging up in my trophy room, and I have my bank book next to it.
The hula hoop, 30 years old and still hip. David Browning, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. Bob Schieffer will be here tomorrow. I'll see you Monday. Good night.
Hurry, time is running out on Color Tile's biggest sale of the year. Your last chance to save up to 50%. Ceramic tiles, vinyl tiles, mosaics, even wall coverings. This stylish ceramic tile, just 59 cents. Venetian wall tile, 63 cents. Rich wood parquet floors, $1.40 to $1.56. And sundial Solarian, only $8.99 after rebate. Color Tile's biggest sale of the year. Come now and bring the beauty home. Hurry, sale ends Sunday, March 27th.
We know how you love shrimp.
It's the once-a-year Red Lobster Shrimp Festival, featuring the shrimp sampler and our enormous shrimp feast. Platters start at just $6.95. Kids for just $1.95. Now that's a shrimp festival.
We know how you love shrimp.
The Red Lobster Shrimp Festival.
Try the shrimp and crab leg feast, just $10.95 on Fridays and Saturdays only.
To stack up the Total's vitamin nutrition, it takes almost 3 bowls of Special K.
I'll have shredded wheat.
12 bowls.
Separate checks, please.
Total has 100% of 9 vitamins and iron and is rich in calcium. That's a stack of nutrition.
In just 1 bowl.
In Ricky Rudd's high-torque V8, clean-running Quaker State with QSX provides unbeatable protection from wear and tear.
And the oil that protects my car on the track is the same oil you buy right off the shelf.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
This is CBS.
Coming up on Eyewitness News tonight, why the teenager arrested yesterday for the murder of his family may not be going back to Philadelphia to face those charges. And we'll tell you why some parents are worried that their kids aren't safe walking to their school on Belmont Boulevard. We'll have those stories and a look at Bandy Mania coming up next on Eyewitness News.
Captain Can Do It is declaring war. He's slashing high car prices and red tape. Where is he? Only at Kane and Franklin, where every car buyer will be treated like his mom and pop. Look sharp in this